almost 7. So we're going to get going with our meeting today. Welcome to Toastmasters Mayo High Nooners. Today we have a fall meeting of speakers, and we're also going to be doing a new member induction. So that is exciting as well. I am Kaylee, if I didn't already say that. And I will be calling up all of our roles for today for everybody to explain what their role is, and then after that we'll get going with speaking. So first I'm going to call up our grammarian, Chris, to explain his role and to give us our word of the day. Please welcome Chris.
Thank you, Kaylee. I do not see any guests. We have several very recent members, so as always, I will be catching the colorful phrases and also catching connectors, trying to keep myself from using the connectors when I give my reports and introduction. And as for an introduction, our word of the day is ineffable. Ineffable. It is an adjective. It describes something that is too great or extreme to be expressed or described in words, as in the ineffable talent and poise of your grammarian. It can also be describing something that is not to be uttered. The ineffable fear nobody wants to talk about. I had that recently by giving a quick 5-minute talk to a crowd of 80 people. I have no idea who they are, but minutes before my turn was up, there was an ineffable fear of what was going to happen when I got on stage. Thankfully I survived, and I hope everyone here does as well.
All right, next I'm going to call up our timer, Brian, to explain his role for us today.
My role and responsibility is to keep the speakers on time and to notify them of when they are about out of time. As such, I will be holding up, for the speakers, I'll be holding up the green card when there's 2 minutes left to the end of the speech, the yellow card when there's 1 minute left, and the red card when time is expired. And if they go over that, I will be using the buzzer to let them know that their time has definitely expired. For the table topic speakers, which is 1 to 2 minutes, I will be holding up the green card when there's 1 minute left, the yellow card when there's 1 minute and 30 seconds. Wait, sorry, I said that wrong. When there's 1 minute into their speech, I will hold up the green card. When there's 1 minute and 30 seconds into the speech, I will hold up this yellow card, and 2 minutes into the speech, I'll hold up the red card, meaning that they're out of time. For the evaluators, I'll be holding up the green card when they're 2 minutes into their speech, or 2 minutes into their evaluation, the yellow card when they're 2 minutes and 30 seconds into their evaluation, and the red card when they are 3 minutes into their evaluation, meaning that they're effectively done. And they should no longer, I don't know how to use that word. When the ineffable fear should rise over them. I don't know. But that is it.
Before we get going with our speakers, instead of doing the humor and inspiration, we are going to induct one of our new members, Bethany Brown, into our club. Do we have an officer that will be leading that today?
Do you have the text?
I do have the text.
And I can do the induction.
All right, perfect. Chris, please welcome Chris.
First order of business, we need to have the club approval. If Bethany would follow our Sergeant-at-Arms John out to the hallway. Bethany Brown is our newest member to have her form submitted and dues provided, and I need to turn off my cell phone. I want to know if everybody is giving the thumbs up, the like button, and everything else for our Bethany Brown. All right, let's give her a round of applause. Yay! Come on down, Bethany. This is relatively painful, I do all the talking here. Membership in Toastmasters is a privilege, and the only way to gain the benefits of our program is to actively participate. Do you, Bethany Brown, promise to be an active member of this club, to attend meetings regularly and prepare fully for your duties? Do you also promise to fulfill the other points in the Toastmasters promise? All right, now for the club. Do you, the members of Mayo High Nooners Toastmasters Club, promise to support Bethany Brown as she works in the Toastmasters program?
Yes.
It is my pleasure to declare you an installed member of the Mayo High Nooners Toastmasters Club.
Now that we have welcomed Bethany into our club, we are going to move on to our speaking portion for today. And our first speaker is going to be Joe Sharp. He's asking for 5 to 7 minutes today. And the title of his speech today is Speaking on the Spur of the Moment. Please welcome Joe.
Thank you very much. One of the secrets, if you are speaking spontaneously, is to pick a topic that is happening right now, as I have, or something that someone has said before you that you want to make a comment on, or some reason for us all being here at this particular moment, or some aspect of who we are. That's how you pick a topic, spontaneously. But I'd like to start out by how you prepare yourself. I think you have to prepare yourself to speak spontaneously by assuming you're going to fail. Assuming it's going to be painful. And the way you protect yourself from that is to cauterize the wound. In other words, to tell yourself it's okay to fail. You're going to learn something useful from it, and therefore it's a good thing to happen. In fact, Thomas Edison used to say that it was only by all his failures that he ever learned how to make the electric light. So that's one of the first secrets to being comfortable speaking spontaneously. But there is another aspect of it that I'd like to talk about. There's a certain enjoyment speaking spontaneously. Because, you know, when you're giving a prepared speech, you're constantly worried about how well I'm using what I know, how well have I forgotten everything. But when you're talking spontaneously, you're so worried about what you're going to say now, but you don't have a chance to worry. So it's really quite a satisfactory experience. Now, the real secret to talking spontaneously is to answer the question, why are you alive? What is the reason for your being here? What makes you special? Why should you be here at all? And that's an interesting thing that you should be considering for the whole rest of your life. And it's not a bad idea to explore it every chance you get. But finally, I'd like to give you a clue that when you're talking spontaneously, you should be constantly thinking about how it's going to end. What's your conclusion? Make sure that everything you say focuses toward the end of your speech. And so now I'm going to give you the end of my speech. You should all practice speaking spontaneously. It'll add an awful lot and make your life a lot richer. Thank you.
Good. 1 minute for evaluation, please. speaker is Andrew, and he's going to be giving a 5 to 7 minute speech titled Tips and Tricks to Riding Your Bike to Work. Please help me welcome Andrew.
I spend most of my mornings getting ready for work and preparing to take Park and Ride bus to work. I drive to the IBM Park and Ride and take the bus downtown. That takes about approximately 20 minutes. But with the summer coming out and it getting nice and warm, I also like to take the opportunity, if I can, ride my bike to work. With Rochester's great trail system, it actually only takes me about 20 minutes to bike to work, the same amount of time it takes me to ride the bus. Nationwide, this week is called Bike to Work Week. All around the nation, cities are promoting people trying to bike to work. Rochester is doing its part. For example, People's Co-op this week, if you bring in your bike helmet, they'll give you a free coffee. If you bike downtown, the Dan Abraham Healthy Living Center is allowing anybody to shower at their facilities. I'd like to do my part by offering a few tips and tricks that I have found commuting to work that can help people if they're looking at biking to work. My first recommendation is always to be prepared. Make your preparations in advance. The night before, look at your route. What roads are you going to take? Get your clothes out. Pack your bags. Last thing you want to do is get to work and forget your shoes. Just happened to me before. The other preparation is to check the weather. I check the weather a few days before. I check the weather the night before. I even check it last thing I do before I leave. You don't want to be riding home from work and seeing that storm cloud coming at you. Another recommendation that I think people should look at is understanding the laws of riding a bicycle. A lot of people don't realize that riding a bicycle, the road laws are no different than automobiles. Bikes are required to fully stop at stop lights and stop signs. They can be ticketed if they roll through a stop sign. They're also required to signal when making turns. For example, if a bike is making a left turn, the cyclist is supposed to put their arm out like this. If they're making a right turn, they're supposed to put their arm out like this. An alternative is to put their right hand out and point towards the right. I recommend this one because not all motorists understand what this means. The other law I'd like to talk about is safety. We always don't want to talk about the unfavorable situation of applying the law of physics on a bike. When it comes down to a bike versus a car, the law of physics is going to say the car is always going to win. So take extra safety when you're riding to work. If your gut tells you that car is not going to yield to you and you have the right of way, trust your gut. You don't want to be going to the hospital in the ambulance. My final recommendation, which follows up with my law of physics example, is the helmet law. Adults in Minnesota are not required to wear bike helmets, but it is highly recommended. Cyclists should always be wearing helmets. It doesn't matter if you buy a $10 bike helmet at Walmart, like the one my daughter has, with princess glitter and everything, or the $200 Tour de France helmet that you'll find at the cycling store. All helmets are required to pass CP FFSC government regulations. So it's kind of ironic that the cheapo helmet is just as safe as an extremely expensive helmet that you find at the bike shop. So it doesn't matter if your budget's cheap or expensive, a helmet is extremely important. With that conclusion in safety, I think everybody can look at biking to work. I think as I said, my recommendations, preparing in advance, understanding your safety and understanding the laws, people can really look forward to biking to work. Every morning when I bike to work, it's a nice way to skip the cup of coffee and get energized and motivated to work. When I get to work, it's just starting like mid-morning, you're not sleepy anymore, the energy, the blood is flowing through you. It's a great way to start the day. And it's a great way to end the day with realizing the amount of time that you spent commuting to work, you also exercised for the day, and you're prepared to spend the rest of your day at home without having to worry about getting exercise or anything else in. So in conclusion, plan in advance, understand your safety, and understand the rules of the road. Thank you.
1 minute for evaluation, please. For our next part of our meeting, we are going to call up our topic master, Sarah, and she will be delivering our extemporaneous speaking portion of our meeting. Please welcome Sarah.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and no guests today. We will be speaking extemporaneously during this section of this speech, and I have prepared some topics to go through. And I'm honored to be your table topic master, mainly because I feel it is the safest role you can have in a Toastmasters meeting, because I am completely safe from having to provide a topic or table. Along those lines, I would like to call on Uganda to hear from him on what his favorite role of a Toastmasters meeting is in.
Topic master, my Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. The role I like the most is the Toastmasters role. The reason is that's how you start the meeting and you introduce all the roles, and I feel that it's the role empowers me to think and steer the meeting towards a good ending, and it also makes me to plan beforehand, because I have to know who the speakers are, what their topics are, how long they are going to speak. So it's a mix of responsibility, empowerment, and sense of accomplishment. Thanks.
this weekend, I'm gonna be driving to Chicago to visit a friend of mine who recently had a baby, her new baby. And I hate driving, first of all, especially if it's gonna be in a big city. Fortunately, I'm not driving all the way into Chicago, it's just one of the just outside suburbs. I would like to hear from somebody. I'm gonna ask for a volunteer for this because I don't know if it applies to everyone. If somebody has any tips for me on how to handle big city driving, or maybe just a driving story in general. Is there anybody who'd like to talk about that? Chris, that was good.
Fellow Toastmasters and Sarah for trip tips. I have been driving since at least the 4th grade. And I had a go-kart growing up. I grew up in a small town, a little over 100 people, so I had pretty much free rein of the roads and used the opportunities as much as possible. And I can tell you that keep up with traffic. In today's world, I think especially in Chicago and even in the cities, obeying laws like speed limits has its limits when you are in a herd of vehicles. You don't want to be stampeded by the vehicles behind you. As Andrew explained earlier, there are physics involved, and if you are not keeping up, you will not win. So to win, just keep up. But also, you also don't want to call attention to yourself for that patrolman that is, watching the rivers of cars, and you don't want to be that fish that stands out. Have you ever played pole position on the video games? Did you ever go to a go-kart track and have to weave in and out? It's just having a hyper sensitivity to your surroundings. Don't get into the tunnel vision. Always look around, just glance around, and if you think you have 3 extra feet to fit in between cars when you're merging and getting over, take advantage of it. You won't get very many other chances. Thank you.
Chris, I'll take those tips into mind. I'm trying to stay alive. This is the last meeting you'll see me at. Time for another? We're entering prom season, I think. I'm assuming, because driving around town on the weekend, you see all the little high schoolers in their little prom dresses taking pictures by the river and things like that. That's kind of fun. I actually never went to prom. It's kind of a funny story. Both my junior and senior years, I had dates with just friends, and the first year I canceled because a friend of mine started falling for another friend of mine. And I'm like, you two go have fun at prom together. So I didn't go that year. The next year I had a date again, just a friend. This time a guy that, just friends. Don't want it beyond that kind of thing. And he started to like me, and then I'm like, nope. I don't want to give you any mixed feelings. Anyway, so I canceled. I would like to hear from a volunteer on a prom story or a fun date story, any kind of a story along those lines that you'd like to share. Anybody like to talk about that? Courtney?
Hello, Toastmasters. My prom was 8 hours long. I got ditched 15 minutes into it, not a big deal. What I would like to do is offer a rebuttal to Chris's driving advice. I grew up in Illinois, and I grew up near and around Chicago, and so the advice that was offered by our club president was to keep up with the traffic. I beg to differ. If you are going slow, they will notice you. And they will avoid you, and they will give you room to be that slow driver and just say, they're gonna fly right by you. They drive 85, 95, you can actually get a ticket in Chicago for holding up traffic and going too slow. If you are in the fast lane, my experience is you need to be doing a steady 85. Go to the slow lanes. When you hit the Dan Ryan and when you hit I-95 and you are going, drive and do what you are comfortable with. You are a woman driver, you will get wide berth. Make sure you know where you're going and don't miss your exits as always. I hate driving. I grew up driving, I hate driving, so I try to avoid it when possible. But when I absolutely need to drive, know where you're going. Have the WAS on your phone. Have that GPS. Make sure Siri is telling you where you need to go and you pay attention to those turns. If you have to go fast, you have to hit it to 90 to pass some old ladies, and that's fine. There's going to be those people, but if you're the slow one, they're definitely going to pay attention to you. If you're another fast, crazy driver, they're just going to not give you a second thought. But if you're holding up and impeding their driving, they're going to notice you and they're going to like
Great. First advice today. One more time. For this one, I'm going to call on somebody, and I'm inspired by Joe's.
Madam General Evaluator, fellow Toastmasters, and Joe. We're here to evaluate your speech, speaking on the spur of the moment. It was 5 to 7 minutes long is what you asked for, and you asked me to evaluate whether or not the speech was logical and sensical as you gave it. And obviously, given the topic, I can see why you were asking for that. To start off, overall, I enjoyed the speech. It didn't feel as extemporaneous as it was. And I think you applied many of the tips that you relayed to the rest of us. In your preparation, you spoke from things that you knew that were topical and in the moment, and that showed. You had 4 main points, and they all seemed to flow together. And then your conclusion was a call to action for everyone, which I also enjoyed. I thought that the volume and the rate of speech that you had was pleasant and made it easy to follow the speech. And the only opportunity that I would give for you for future speaking was in point 1, in discussing preparation. You had a lot of colorful language, like assuming failure, assuming that it would be painful and to cauterize the wound. And I think keeping that same word usage and the same kind of a tone through the rest of your main points would have added to the speech, although their absence didn't take away from the main points. And now that this speech about your speech about speaking is wrapping up, I'll stop there before it gets ineffable. Thank you very much for the opportunity to evaluate.
Our second evaluator today is Stacy, who will provide an evaluation for Andrew's speech.
Thank you, Madam Evaluator, and especially Andrew. I thought that Andrew's speech had an ineffable organization, and it was almost like a bike ride itself. He began by getting on the bike and telling us what he was going to speak about, giving us some local incentives to get the audience interested and incentivized, and used humor. He used humor throughout the speech, which I thought was excellent. I particularly liked the phrase "princess glitter." It really brought to mind an image, got a very clear image in my mind. And then we moved from getting on the bike to riding the bike, and I noticed very few outs, which is a great improvement that we've seen in Andrew speaking. I noticed, and I believe that this is just something that will happen as you get more practice. You know, it's just practice. But there are some sighs, and sometimes when you sigh, it's like you're frustrated, and you may be, but it's something to be aware of about yourself, because I don't think you're trying to express frustration. You're usually, I think, thinking for the next phrase or word or sentence. You did excellent gestures. I liked it when you were listing off the 3 things and you did this with your fingers. That was great. And then when you were telling us what the hand signals were, when you said, and then you have to use hand signals, and I was like, oh, please do the hand signals, please do the hand signals. And then you did. So great work. And then we got off the bike at the end. There's a summary of the benefits. He revisited the call to action to get everybody interested and thinking about at least riding their bike to work. So once again, I'd like to thank you for your speech and for taking us on that bike ride.
I just wanted to add, Andrew, it was a very inspiring speech. My husband and I carpool on the way in and we drop off our youngest at daycare. So I'm not sure if there is a 3-person tandem. I also wanted to challenge your assumption that the energy and extra emphasis you have when you get to work is based on the blood flow. I think it's the fact that you have 20 minutes all by yourself, nobody asking you questions or demanding things from the back seat. So it's very inspiring, but maybe perhaps for a different reason for me to ride my bike to work. But thank you, it was a fantastic speech. I would like to ask our grammarian to come up and give us the grammarian's report today.
Thank you, General Evaluator. Apparently, ineffable is an ineffable word of the day for many. I think we had 3. One of them was close. It was Andrew. It was mispronunciation, but I still give you credit. I just wanted to clarify on that one. For colorful words, I still like Joe's assume you fail. I have heard that a few times, and it is worth remembering. It does cauterize the room, or cauterize the wound, by giving you that extra little bit of crust to toughen up your skin, is what I'm assuming it's for. The speaker number 2, Andrew, you have gotten a lot better with the ums and ahs. I did notice towards the end they were feeling a little left out when you showed up. I would also recommend that we don't list our progress in the speech. I think the conclusion should be self-evident without having us to say in conclusion. And the thank you part, I believe Amit has mentioned this in the past too. Simply turn. I think it's something that has been said. You shouldn't end your speech with a thank you. They should be thanking you for giving the speech. Is how to handle that one or think about that one. Sarah, you only had a couple ahs and ahs with yours. Didn't hear anything, any connectors from Deganta, no word of the day either. Or Courtney, didn't catch that word of the day. However, we were having a scheduling conflict in the back, so I might have missed it. John, I liked your solution or alternative to prom. Very economical of you. I appreciate that. And Greg, I did notice a few ahs and a couple ands. Love the word of the day right off the bat. And Stacy, we can count on you for the word of the day. One of the pause alternatives I've noticed, and Kaylee, you've gotten better, is that I don't know if it's a mom thing or frustrating. At least there's no sigh. But